infinity and beyond with Science! Welcome to Sci Friday on SkyWatch TV. I'm Derek Gilbert, and in studio our SkyWatch TV science editor, my best friend, my wife, Sharon Gilbert.
Hi, honey.
Hello.
How are you? Did I just hear screeching wheels?
That's Joe working next door.
Oh, well, it was so perfect, though, because I doubt that the camera picked it up, but it worked perfectly with what you were saying. So I was over here laughing.
Well, it's
I
a synchronicity. I love you, sweetheart.
Happy Friday, honey.
Well, it is indeed Happy Friday, and happy because we get to sit here and talk to each other the way we do at home all the time, and these poor people out here have to...
They have to listen, the poor things. We've fixed it so you don't have a stop button. You have to watch the
That's
whole
right.
thing.
We are in control of your set. Do not adjust your controls.
By the way, lest we forget later on, and we will, because that's how I am at least, we have a Facebook page for Sci Friday, and it's /Sci Friday on SkyWatch TV, or just on SkyWatch.
On SkyWatch, yes. It's facebook.com/ and you'll see it on the lower third coming across your screen now. Facebook.com/ Sci Friday on SkyWatch.
The reason we had to put the on SkyWatch is because Sci Friday was already taken by somebody else.
Somebody has it.
Yeah, weasels.
For now.
Yeah. No, they're probably very nice people. I shouldn't call them weasels.
Well, some interesting stuff again this week in the world of science.
Yeah. Oh, and people will know what we're talking about if they like the page and follow it. Make it a favorite because it'll show up on your Facebook wall on the feed, and you'll be able to see what stories we add. And we probably add half a dozen a day. Well, you know, there's lots of one of the most interesting things, and this is a real oddity. I'm just going to lead with this weird story, is that there's been a mysterious black rain falling in a little town in Michigan. Tar-like substance. It is not petroleum-based. It's been tested. There are people who thought, well, maybe it was coming from a nearby base. And the base said, no, we don't know what you're talking about. The belief is that it probably, well, clearly it came from the air, but they're thinking that it probably came from a plane.
Sure. Yeah.
So what was being sprayed or was lost? What exited a plane that would fall as tar-like balls all over the town?
I'm not sure. I want to know.
Well, it does. No, I don't think it's that. But definitely, it's all over the town. The picture you can see here.
And we'll put this on your screen.
Yeah, it's not attractive.
No.
So people are having to clean this up from all over the town. So anyway.
It probably has something to do with the Josh and Christina Peck leaving Michigan.
I thought that the minute that I saw this story. I thought, you know, they leave and the whole state goes to heck.
Yes.
Harrison Township is where it's taking place. And if you live anywhere near that, or if you're in a town that has experienced this, please send us a note. SciFriday@skywatchtv.com and let us know. Other things in the news, there's a vaccine for MERS.
Oh, Middle East
respiratory syndrome.
Right, and you know, I've not been tracking that recently. I had been watching it for a while. I know that you do.
Time.
But it was found that it was spreading. It was originally discovered in Saudi Arabia some years ago, and it spread. There was an outbreak in South Korea.
That was very bad. It spread throughout a hospital system, all because of one supercarrier.
Right.
This vaccine is now being trialed at the Walter Reed Army Institute of Research.
Really?
So here in the United States, yep.
Now, Walter Reed, am I mistaken in that that's a hospital?
Military hospital.
Military hospital, so veterans are the ones.
Yeah, it's part of the veterans. It could be if it's, it doesn't say here for sure because it's the first clinical trial of this vaccine. So if it's phase 1, it's probably being tested on animals.
Okay. There was a bizarre story about the spread and the difficulty that they were having in containing this disease in Saudi Arabia because apparently there's I don't know if this is in the Quran or if it's in one of the hadiths, but apparently one of the teachings of Muhammad that's been preserved amongst his followers for these many generations is that drinking camel urine is good for your health.
That just doesn't sound right, no matter what's in...
No. MERS is a virus that originated with camels and has spread to humans.
And often is shed in urine.
So,
no, I'm reading this. 75 human participants will receive the vaccine at the trial center in Silver Spring, Maryland. And right now it's being called GLS 5300. That's
we'll keep an eye on that because
Xanadu.
that's a very deadly disease.
It really is. So it's got about a 40% fatality rate. So
that's really high.
Yeah, it's pretty high.
Yeah, consider that the Spanish flu of 1919, which killed an estimated 50 million people, 20 to 50 million people, only had a death rate of like 5%.
Yeah.
2.5 to 5%. So
right now it does not spread easily between people.
Right.
But you can catch it apparently pretty easily if you're hanging out with camels and perhaps other animals. The actual reservoir is to believe maybe in bats. They don't know for sure. And it's really difficult.
Bats always get blamed. Bats are blamed for Ebola.
Look, we can't, they're blamed for about 50% of the new zoonotic diseases. So yeah, bats are always being blamed. So we'll see what happens with that. Back to Zika though, since we're talking about viruses, there was just a report published this morning. There were virus particles and antibodies to Zika discovered in amniotic fluid, which means that virus passed through the placental barrier. That's a major concern for a developing baby, because if the virus does indeed cause Guillain-Barré syndrome, which it may, that is a neurological disorder. It's an autoimmune disorder, and in a developing fetus, it could cause a lot of damage.
Well, autoimmune disorders are difficult. I know that's something that you've had to contend with your adult life, but in the developing embryo, the developing child, that can really be...
Exactly. If the immune system of a developing child begins attacking its own nervous system, I don't know how it could ever develop normally. So I don't know if that's going to be used as evidence for the microcephaly problem that's taking place in Brazil and a couple of other places. Brazil seems to be the main area where we're seeing a major, a reported
outbreak. Well, that's the thing, and I'm glad you mentioned that, because there was a story that came out of Brazil this past week that while they have found evidence that it's affecting unborn children, that they've only identified, amongst these 4,000 reported cases of microcephaly in Brazil since October, which, as we talked about a couple of weeks ago, is statistically not beyond what we would expect in a normal population based on the number of cases of microcephaly here in the United States. But they've only identified that 41 of the microcephalic children have the Zika virus present. So that begs the question, why then did the World Health Organization declare this a medical emergency when only 1% of the cases of microcephaly have the Zika virus present?
Okay, first of all, the Zika virus in adults at least is very quickly eliminated from the body. It doesn't hang around. That's true of most viruses. There are a few viruses that will go quiet and dormant, and they'll be there for a long time, and then chickenpox is one, and when you can get shingles as an adult. If that's true, then it's very difficult after the fact, if these children were born in October, to test them now. It would be very difficult to find the virus in their bodies if it's cleared quickly from children as in adults. The other thing is that I believe that the World Health Organization is still stinging from the beating that they've taken in the press and through various Ebola. Just, they didn't get out in front of it very quickly, or at least that's the perception. And because of that, I think both the CDC, the World Health Organization, and PAHO, the Pan American Health Organization, they are jumping in front of this to make sure that they warn the whole world. And honestly, I pray that it turns out that this is a crying wolf moment for those organizations. I'd love it if nothing happened. But the truth is that we are looking at warming temperatures here in our part of the country. And so if we get an early spring, then we're going to have mosquitoes earlier. We're going to have all sorts of other critters earlier.
Fleas, ticks.
It could be, primarily mosquitoes is what we worry about with Zika. But there are other diseases out there. And Zika appears to be causing the autoimmune disorder Guillain-Barré, but the Aedes mosquito also carries dengue. And if dengue were to take hold in the United States, that would be far worse than Zika, because it can actually turn into hemorrhagic fever.
Like Ebola. Yeah. There is something about the Zika virus, though, that we probably should mention. Now, you and I have no problem investigating conspiracy theories. We wear foil hats with the best of them.
I love them. I have several kinds.
But in fact, we made them several years ago for our dogs.
Yeah.
And if I can find that picture, I'll put that up on the screen as well. I don't know if I've got that accessible. But anyway,
and we don't say that to make fun of them. The truth is that we do question. And that's why we
absolutely. Yeah. There is nothing wrong with asking the question and looking for evidence, but we shouldn't jump to conclusions that stretch beyond the evidence. And there has been a claim by some looking into the Zika virus that it's a conspiracy. The globalists have spread this disease to destroy our children, that the Rockefellers are behind this. And it's based on a discovery at the website of a company that specializes in selling samples to research laboratories. And the original sample of the Zika virus, which was first identified in 1947, was deposited with this company by the Rockefeller Foundation, researchers who were working for the Rockefeller Foundation. Now, the name Rockefeller will automatically trigger red flags for conspiracy theorists because the Rockefellers are openly globalist. And David Rockefeller, a key player in the Bilderberg Group, the Trilateral Commission, Council on Foreign Relations.
And I think if they were sitting here at the panel, they would say, yes, I believe in global.
Yes, absolutely. But that does not mean that because their name is attached to this sample, and this sample sends samples, this laboratory rather, and this laboratory sends samples out to other laboratories.
Exactly.
Does not mean that they created, patented, and or the virus, or that they're trying to send it around the world to destroy us.
Exactly. When a new virus is discovered, the people who are sent into the field earlier are often going into jungles. They're going into very dangerous environments, not only from the possibility of getting the virus itself, but also from the animals that they have to trap to try to find the actual reservoir for the virus and try to get large quantities so that they can later sequence it. If we don't study a virus, we'll never learn anything, and we won't be able to find any way to treat it, to eventually cure it, perhaps, and we definitely won't be able to understand it. The people who do this, who send their folks into the field, sometimes it's the CDC. The folks who do this, oftentimes, if it's a private organization, they will copyright it. They'll say, we sequenced it, we have this, we'll give you the sequence for a price, or we'll send you the primer or the protein or whatever you need in your lab to do research on it. When I was in college, I used to do research on viruses, and we had to order them, and I had to go through my professors, and he would or she would order it, and we'd bring it in, and I'd inoculate plants and things like that to see what happened. Sometimes, too, these are actual primers that are used in reverse transcriptase PCR. It's a way to discover whether or not it is the Zika virus that's in your blood. It's because I use a little piece of primer that attaches to the virus I'm studying or trying to identify, and that's a sort of a way of, if I have a picture of you, I can find you. Think of the primer as a picture of the virus. So, yeah, I'm not surprised that they're charging for it. Doesn't mean that they created it.
No, exactly. So just because somebody sees the Rockefeller name and sees a copyright symbol attached to this company that's marketing, not to the virus itself, again, ask the questions. Look for evidence, but let's not jump to conclusions that go beyond the evidence. We're certainly no supporters of the globalist agenda because we see this as a return to Babel, the world's, the first kingdom. It is a prophetic return to the kingdom of Nimrod. But Zika virus, probably not an aspect of that plan.
Now, Zika virus, again, we're going to learn more and more about it as time goes on. And one of the big concerns is, as we've reported on here, the modifications made in the mosquito itself, because the actual viral mutations and the changes, recombinations that can take place within the virus usually occur in whatever is spreading it. It may occur in humans, it may occur in pigs, it may occur in fowl, chickens, birds. In this case, it's occurring in the vector, in the mosquito. So if you alter the vector, there's always that possibility that you've set up a situation that can alter the disease it's carrying. So they need to look at that too, and I'm sure that someone is.
Right, and that gets back to the genetically modified mosquitoes that we talked about a couple of weeks ago from Oxitec. There's also another plan out there that's being put forward by the United Nations itself to irradiate male mosquitoes, which again, probably just going to kill them or make them sterile. But
irradiation usually leads to mutation, and you can't control what the mutation is.
I know. I
mean, these monstrous mosquitoes.
Evokes sci-fi, the Sci-Fi Channel's original movie, Man Mosquito or something. And we're being flippant, but it is a serious issue. But we're just a little puzzled as to why the World Health Organization and again, it's probably just a concern over legal liability for not getting out ahead of this. But it does not appear that the Zika virus itself is responsible for microcephaly. There may be something else at work, or it may be that the number of cases is just not unusual.
I wouldn't say that.
No? Okay.
You can't say it does not appear. But there is more and more evidence every day that it may well be a contributor, at least. So no, we can't rule that out yet.
All right. So anyway,
very early days.
Yeah. Okay. No firm conclusions one way or the other then.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the very fact that it was an amniotic fluid, it's doing something in the fetus.
We just need to know
don't know what. Yeah. Lots of other stories out there, and we just don't have time to go into all of them. With regard to spying on you, we've talked about cyber tech and why our government wants to track everything you do. We talk about that a lot. There is something that I discovered today. I really never realized, first of all, that this act existed, but as part of the original U.S. federal statute back in 1789, there is something called the All Writs, W-R-I-T-S, All Writs Act. Writ of habeas corpus, we've heard that a lot. In other words, it's sort of a broad, sweeping act that allows the government to essentially get your stuff. In this case, now in our modern days, it's being used for electronic surveillance.
This is a really broad act. The All Writs Act reads, the United States federal courts are authorized to, quote, issue all writs necessary or appropriate in aid of their respective jurisdictions and agreeable to the usages and principles of law. That is a loophole you could drive an aircraft carrier through.
Absolutely. In fact, you could drive an entire fleet through that. In 2014, the act was used by the U.S. Attorney's Office in New York to compel an unnamed smartphone manufacturer to bypass the lock screen of a smartphone allegedly involved in credit card fraud. The reason I'm even bringing this up is because right now Apple has been told by the federal government, you have to create a backdoor into your iOS operating system so we can look, according to the government, at a specific phone, the one used by the San Bernardino terrorists. But Apple is claiming what they've been asked for is to build in a generic backdoor for all phones using the iOS.
Yeah. According to this, the head of the FBI, James Comey, said that what was requested was a feature be disabled, that the iPhone's feature to erase encrypted data after 10 incorrect password attempts. Apple's claim is that if they were to comply with that, then simple brute force password attacks would be easy for anybody to hack any iPhone anywhere.
Yeah.
My response to this is, what, you mean there's not a backdoor in there already?
Well, that was sort of mine too, and I thought, well, at the very least, this is good PR before Apple, because they've been taking a hit, one after another lately. And if Tim Cook can get out in front of this and say, hey, we're standing for your personal rights against the man, against the big government. Google and Android, their Android and I think Windows, Microsoft have also said they agree with Apple's stance on this, and they would do the same thing.
Well, good.
So it'll be interesting to see where it all goes. But it's based on a 1789 law.
Well, that's really interesting. I recently interviewed a gentleman, Dr. Scott Lively, who's a pastor in California. He's a pro-family ministry who years ago spoke in Uganda about some legislation being considered by the government in Uganda to outlaw homosexuality. And he actually recommended against doing it, but they did pass a law, and it was very strict. And as a result, he was sued by a Ugandan human rights organization with the help of a progressive legal group in the U.S. under a 1790 law called the Alien Torts Statute, which is so vague, and all the original documentation's been lost. So nobody really knows why the law was written or what it was supposed to do, but yet, and the Supreme Court even said, you can't use this law to justify a foreign national suing an American citizen in American courts for acts committed in that foreign nation that weren't illegal in the foreign nation or the United States, but the court hearing his case allowed the case to proceed anyway.
This will go to the Supreme Court,
It will. But anyway, yeah, it's interesting how our acts our United States laws are being used to justify essentially sublimating American sovereignty.
Well, very much so. In fact, anyone who thinks that our Constitution and a set of laws is what really governs our nation, they're not paying attention.
Exactly.
It's case law.
Yeah,
it's what a judge decides.
Right. And as Christians, well, as Americans, we can find that really disturbing, but as Christians, we need to remember our citizenship is first and foremost in the kingdom of heaven.
Amen.
Yeah, our ruler is a king.
Amen. Isn't that nice?
Yeah, we're theocrats.
I love our king too.
Yeah.
Well, I'm looking at the list here, and that we could probably go on for another. Oh gosh,
we've gone way over.
We've blathered and blathered. Just be sure to send us your stories, though, and some of you have been, and I really appreciate that. We love reading your emails, SkyFriday@SkyWatchTV.com.
That's right.
And like our Facebook page. We need the likes.
And keep watching because Josh Peck's program Into the Multiverse with Josh Peck soon to debut on the SkyWatch TV channel on Roku and also on YouTube.
Also, I will very soon, beginning in March, I will be interviewing the other ladies who will be appearing with me in our fall program, Skywatch Women. I'm going to be doing one-on-one interviews so we can get to know each of the ladies on the panel. And that's really part of the launch of Nita Horn's book, which is coming out in April, No Fences, which is her story.
Yeah.
So everybody has a story, men and women alike. But in my case, because it's Skywatch Women, you're going to have to get your own show. Skywatch Guys or something, you know. Punch in the face room with Derek.
It's Skywatch Man Cave. That's it.
Watch out for bats.
This week, or next week rather, on SkyWatch TV. And we need to remind you that SkyWatch TV is now available on, well, multiple days of the week on multiple networks. The Cornerstone Network, Wednesday afternoons, 3:30 p.m. All these times are Central, by the way. The Victory Television Network, 3 times a week. If you live in Arkansas or the Memphis area, Mondays at 8:30 p.m., Tuesdays at 6:30 p.m., and Saturdays at 3:30 p.m., the Victory Television Network. And then, of course, the Christian Television Network, Tuesday nights at 8:30 p.m., Saturday nights at 7:30 p.m. Next week, the second part of our interview with Dr. Robert Bennett on demonic possession and spiritual warfare in America this time.
That was such a good conversation. If the people haven't been able to scribble all those times and days down quickly enough, and you don't want to have to back up and do it all, it's on a page at the website, isn't it?
Yes, you'll find it in the top link under channel listings at the very top menu bar at skywatchtv.com. You'll find that there. And of course, you also see the top menu bar there, the big window asking for your help for the documentary film Inhuman, the next and final phase of man is here. It does turn out that voting is continuing for the 37th annual Telly Awards, the People's Choice segment. We're asking for your help to help spread the word about the transhumanist movement by going to the website, follow that link to the Telly Awards page, and rate Inhuman the film. Again, your way to help us get the message of the transhumanist movement to the world. Well, have a blessed weekend, and thank you for watching as we keep watch. For Sharon Gilbert, I'm Derek Gilbert, and this is SkyWatch TV.